Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, her hands clasped behind her back. The massive hall stretched above her, designed to make visitors feel small. Crystal pillars rose like frozen waterfalls, and holographic displays showed the 15-member species of the Council. Each representative sat in their designated section, looking down at the human delegation. This was the 47th time Sarah had come before the Council in 3 years. Each time, she asked for the same basic things. Each time, she received the same dismissive responses. "Honored Council members," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the frustration burning in her chest. "Humanity requests assistance with the pirate attacks in our outer colonies. In the past 6 months, we have lost 17 civilian vessels and over 3,000 lives. We ask only for information sharing and the right to purchase defensive technology." The Vethkar representative, a being made of living crystal that reflected rainbow light, made a sound like wind chimes. The translator rendered it as laughter. "The human persists in bothering this council with minor security issues. Perhaps if your species learned proper vessel protocols, such primitive raiders would not be a problem." Sarah felt her jaw tighten but kept her expression neutral. "With respect, Council Member Vethkar, these pirates use weapons and ships far beyond our current technology. We have evidence they are purchasing these from..." "Enough." The Pelthrosian ambassador raised one elegant hand, his blue skin seeming to glow in the chamber's light. The Pelthrosians looked almost human, except taller, more beautiful, and infinitely more arrogant. Humanity was granted provisional contact status only 15 years ago. You expect full military support after barely a decade and a half? Your species wasn't being slaughtered by pirates equipped with council-grade weapons, Sarah shot back, her patience finally cracking. The chamber filled with the alien equivalent of gasps and angry muttering. The Xinthian representative, speaking with the unified voice of thousands of connected minds, buzzed with displeasure. "The human shows disrespect. This is why primitive species must earn their place through patience and proper behavior." Sarah looked around the chamber at the 15 species who controlled most of the known galaxy. Some had been members for thousands of years. They controlled the hyperspace lanes, the trade routes, the technology, and the laws. Humanity had been so excited at first contact, believing they would join a community of equals. Instead, they found a hierarchy, and humanity was at the bottom. "We have been patient," Sarah said quietly. "For 15 years, we have followed every protocol. We have paid every fee. We have accepted every insult and every restriction. We have asked for nothing but basic protection that every other species receives. And every single time, we are told to wait, to earn it, to prove ourselves worthy." She paused, looking directly at each council member in turn. "How many of our people must die before we have earned the right to defend ourselves?" The Vethkar chimed again. That crystalline laugh. "Drama is unbecoming. Your species numbers in the billions across dozens of worlds. A few thousand losses are statistically irrelevant." Something cold settled into Sarah's chest. She had come here, hoping, despite everything, that this time would be different. That someone on this council would see humanity as more than amusing primitives. That someone would care about 3,000 lives. "I see," Sarah said softly. She turned to her delegation. 6 other humans stood behind her, their faces showing the same mix of anger and disappointment she felt. They had all believed in the dream of galactic cooperation. They had all worked so hard to make it real. "We're done here," she told them. Sarah turned back to the council one final time. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the massive chamber. "For 15 years, humanity has asked for your help, for your guidance, for partnership. We believed in the ideals this council claims to represent: cooperation, mutual defense, advancement of all species." She paused. "We were wrong. You don't want partners. You want subjects. You don't want to help us grow. You want to keep us beneath you. How dare you, the Pelthrosian began. But Sarah cut him off. We're done asking, she said. We're done begging. The Vethkar leaned forward, light scattering through its crystalline body. You would abandon the benefits of council membership? Your species would be alone in the galaxy. Sarah smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. We've been alone this entire time. We just didn't realize it. She began walking toward the exit, her delegation following. Behind her, the council erupted into angry debate. Some called for sanctions. Others demanded apologies. A few simply laughed at the human audacity. Sarah didn't look back. As the delegation's ship lifted off from the council's world, Sarah sat in the observation deck and watched the planet shrink below them. Her second-in-command, James Park, sat beside her. What happens now? He asked. Sarah thought about her daughter back on Earth, working as an engineer. She thought about the colonies on the frontier, vulnerable and desperate for help that would never come. She thought about humanity's brief, violent history and the one lesson they had learned over and over again. We do what humans have always done when the world tells us no, she said. We figure it out ourselves. The message went out that night on every human channel, civilian and military. It was simple and direct. Ambassador Chen appeared on screens across human space, standing straight and proud. Fellow humans, she said. Today, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council process. We will no longer petition for rights they will never grant. We will no longer beg for help they will never provide. From this moment forward, humanity charts its own course. She paused, and then spoke the words that would define everything that followed. Fine, we'll do it ourselves. Across human space, from Earth to the furthest colony. The response was immediate. If the galaxy wouldn't help them, they would help themselves. The great work began. The Galactic Council barely noticed when the humans left. Why would they? Humanity was just one species among hundreds, and a young one at that. They had no significant military power, no great wealth, no ancient knowledge. They were useful for cheap labor and filled some niche roles in the galactic economy, but nothing important. That was what Council member Theron of Pelthrosis told himself as he reviewed the quarterly reports 6 months after the human walkout. A few human-operated shipping contracts had been cancelled. Some human engineers had left their positions at various stations. Nothing significant. His assistant, a younger Pelthrosian named Kira, seemed less certain. Sir, I have been reviewing the economic data more closely. The disruptions are small individually, but they are appearing across multiple sectors. Theron waved a dismissive hand. Humans were never more than 3% of any workforce. The gaps will be filled. Marken sound. But the gaps were not filled quickly. It turned out that humans had occupied a strange position in the galactic economy. They took jobs that were too dangerous, too boring, or too difficult for most species to bother with. They worked in the radioactive engine rooms that crystal-based Vethkar could not enter. They negotiated trade deals between species that hated each other, serving as neutral middlemen. They maintained the ancient infrastructure in forgotten systems because the pay was decent and the work was steady. No single loss was catastrophic. But across the galaxy, things began to run less smoothly. On Station Kef 7, a major trading hub, the automated systems began failing. The human maintenance crew that had serviced them for 5 years was gone. The station hired a Xinthian technical team, but they worked slowly, unfamiliar with the old human-made patches that kept the aging station functional. Minor delays became major ones. Ships began routing to other stations. Trade agreements between the territorial Vethkar and the proud Pelthrosians started breaking down without human mediators. Both species were too dignified to show weakness by dealing directly with the other. Shipments were delayed. Prices increased. Both sides blamed each other. In the outer rim, near the galactic edge, things were stranger. Human vessels appeared and disappeared without using the official hyperspace lanes. This should have been impossible. The Council controlled all major jump gate technology, and traveling without the gates was inefficient and dangerous. Yet humans were doing it anyway. Theron received his first concerning report 8 months after the humans left. A Vethkar science vessel had detected human activity in the Perseus Arm, a region of mostly worthless systems far from major trade routes. When they investigated, they found human mining operations on asteroids, human settlements on barren moons, and human research stations in deep space. They are extracting resources from systems we deemed unprofitable, the Vethkar captain reported. Their methods are crude, but effective. They seem to be building something. Though we could not determine what, before they politely but firmly insisted we leave their operations area. Theron frowned. They have no right to claim those systems. Actually, sir, Kira said quietly, according to Council law, unclaimed systems can be developed by any species. Since we deemed them worthless, we never officially claimed them. Then they are following the law, Theron said. Let them waste their time on useless rocks. But the reports kept coming. Humans were expanding faster than should be possible for a species with limited technology. They were establishing colonies in systems other species had rejected as too harsh or too remote. Each report showed more activity, more construction, more growth. Then, the pirate attacks stopped. The Outer Rim had always had problems with raiders. Dozens of small pirate groups operated in the poorly policed regions, preying on weak or isolated vessels. The Council's official policy was that species should defend their own territory, and only Council members in good standing could request military assistance. For years, human ships had been easy targets. Then, suddenly, they were not. The first incident was reported by a Pelthrosian merchant who witnessed it. A human colony ship was intercepted by a known pirate vessel, one that had been operating for decades with impunity. The merchant captain expected to see the standard pattern. The humans would be robbed or destroyed, and the pirates would vanish before any help arrived. Instead, 3 human warships appeared from nowhere. They did not hail the pirates. They did not offer surrender terms. They simply opened fire with weapons that tore through the pirate vessel's shields like they were not there. The pirate ship was destroyed in less than 30 seconds. The human warships then jumped away, again without using any visible jump gate. Impossible, Theron said when he read the report. Human weapons technology is decades behind ours. They should not be able to penetrate modern shields. More reports followed. Pirates across the Outer Rim were simply vanishing. Their bases, some of which had operated for centuries, went silent. Search teams found wreckage and debris, but no survivors, no witnesses, just the aftermath of short, brutal battles. And always, nearby sensors detected the signatures of human vessels. The Council called an emergency session. For the first time in months, they discussed humanity seriously. They are building a military force, the Zynthian collective warned, and they are not asking permission. Let them, said the Vethkar representative. They protect their own people. This does not threaten us. But Theron was not so sure. He had Kira pull all the data on human activity since their withdrawal. She worked for 3 days straight, compiling information from hundreds of sources. What she showed him was disturbing. Humans had not just left the Council. They had gone home and worked. In 8 months, they had expanded their territory by 40%. They had established new colonies at a rate that should have been impossible. They had built ships using designs that did not match any known galactic technology, and they had somehow achieved military capabilities that let them dominate the pirates who had been terrorizing the Outer Rim for generations. How? Theron asked. How are they advancing so quickly? Kira pulled up an old human saying she had found in the databases. When humans say, "We'll do it ourselves," they mean it. They are not asking for help. They are not waiting for permission. They are just doing the work. Theron stared at the data. Humanity had been ignored, dismissed, and insulted for 15 years. And in response, they had gone away and become dangerous. He drafted a message to Ambassador Chen, requesting a meeting to discuss mutual concerns. The response came back within an hour. It was brief. Humanity is no longer interested in council discussions. We are doing fine on our own. Thank you for your concern. For the first time, Theron felt something he had never associated with humans before. He felt worried. 18 months after humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy was beginning to understand that something significant had changed. But most of the council still did not grasp how much. The Xinthian research vessel Times Unified Thought Times was conducting a survey of gravitational anomalies in unclaimed space when their sensors detected a massive power signature. The collective mind of the ship's crew, 3,000 individuals linked into one consciousness, decided to investigate. What they found should not have existed. The human installation was built into and around a large asteroid cluster. Defensive platforms surrounded the complex, bristling with weapons. Manufacturing facilities stretched across multiple asteroids, connected by transit tubes. Energy readings showed power generation on a scale that should have required council-level fusion technology. The Xinthians sent a standard greeting. The response came immediately. This is Outpost Galileo. You are in human-claimed territory. Please, state your purpose. The voice was polite, but firm. The Xinthians explained they were conducting scientific research and meant no harm. They requested permission to scan the installation for their database. Permission denied. You may pass through this system peacefully, but scanning our facilities is not permitted. We suggest you alter course to avoid our defensive perimeter. The collective mind debated for less than a second. Curiosity won. They adjusted course to approach closer, activating their advanced scanning systems. The human response was immediate. 12 ships that had been invisible to sensors suddenly appeared, surrounding the Xinthian vessel. They had been there the whole time, hidden by some kind of stealth technology that should not have been possible. You were warned, the voice said, still polite. Power down your scanning systems now, or we will disable them for you. The Xinthians were a council species, members for over 3,000 years. They were not accustomed to being threatened, especially by humans. The collective mind was offended. They increased power to their shields and prepared to activate their weapons. Then, something hit their ship. It was not a weapon, exactly. It was some kind of electromagnetic pulse, but far more sophisticated than anything in the Xinthian database. Every system on the ship shut down simultaneously. Life support stayed active, but everything else went dark. Engines, weapons, sensors, communications, all dead. They drifted in space, helpless, for 10 terrifying minutes. Then, just as suddenly, their systems came back online. A new message was waiting. Your ship is undamaged. Your crew is safe. But you were warned. Leave this system now, and do not attempt to scan human installations again. This is your only warning. The Times Unified Thought Times left at maximum speed. The collective mind was shaken in a way it had rarely experienced. In 10 minutes, humans had demonstrated technology that could disable a council ship without destroying it. Precise, controlled, terrifying. The report reached the council within hours. It should have been a call to action, but different members interpreted it different ways. This is proof humans are developing dangerous weapons, the Xinthian ambassador declared. They must be brought under control. Or, the Vethkar, representative chimed. This is proof that we should have been more respectful. They disabled the ship without harming the crew. That shows restraint. While the council argued, something else was happening across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing in dangerous regions, offering protection to any vessel that needed it. They did not ask permission. They did not demand payment. They simply showed up when pirates or raiders attacked, destroyed the threat, and then left. A small trading species called the Vren, who had been terrorized by pirates for decades, sent a formal thank you to the human embassy. The Council had never bothered to protect Vren ships because they were too small, too poor, and too insignificant. Humans protected them anyway. More species noticed. The Krell, whose ships were often hijacked because their people were pacifists who refused to carry weapons. The Soltari, whose homeworld was far from major trade routes and who could not afford Council protection fees. The Henthro, who were discriminated against by most Council species because of their appearance. Humanity offered the same deal to all of them. All we ask is that you help others when you can. It was such a simple idea, but it was revolutionary. The Council operated on hierarchy, on earned privileges, on payment and status. Humanity was offering something else. Cooperation, based on mutual benefit and basic decency. Species began to respond. Small trading companies that had always struggled started routing through human-protected space. Minor species that had been ignored by the Council started establishing relationships with human colonies. Information-sharing networks developed, connecting dozens of species that had never worked together before. Theron watched it happening with growing alarm. He called Ambassador Chen again. And this time, she accepted the communication. Her image appeared on his screen, and he was struck by how much she had changed. 18 months ago, she had looked tired and frustrated. Now she looked confident and calm. "Council Member Theron," she said with a slight nod. "What can I do for you?" "Ambassador Chen, the Council is concerned about recent human military activities. Are we breaking any laws?" she asked. Theron hesitated. "No, but then there is no problem. Humanity is defending its territory and assisting our friends. This should not concern the Council." "Your friends," Theron repeated. "You are building alliances with minor species outside the Council structure." "Yes. Species who, like us, were told they did not matter, that their problems were too small, that they needed to earn the right to be treated with basic dignity." Sarah's expression did not change, but her words carried an edge. "We are finding that we have a lot in common." The Council could interpret this as the formation of a rival power block. Sarah smiled then, and it was not entirely friendly. "The Council can interpret it however they wish. Humanity is not breaking any laws. We are simply helping our friends and defending ourselves. If the Council finds that threatening, perhaps they should ask why." Theron tried a different approach. "Your technology has advanced remarkably quickly. How? We stopped waiting for permission to innovate. We stopped asking if we were allowed to try new things. We just did the work." She leaned forward slightly. "That is what you never understood about humanity. When you tell us something is impossible, we do not accept it. When you say we are not ready, we prove you wrong. When you refuse to help us, we help ourselves. And when you refuse to share your technology with the Council, you mean when we refuse to hand over everything we have built to people who spent 15 years treating us as inferior?" Sarah's voice was sharp now. "The Council had its chance to be our partners. You chose to be our obstacles instead. You do not get to complain when we succeed without you." The communication ended. Theron sat in his office, staring at the blank screen. Kira entered quietly. "Sir, I have more reports. 47 species have now signed mutual defense agreements with humanity. They are calling it the Terran Accord. And sir," she hesitated, "humanity is sharing technology with them. Defensive systems, better engines, communications equipment. All the things the Council refused to share." Theron felt something cold in his chest. For thousands of years, the Council had maintained power by controlling technology, by deciding who was ready for advancement. Now humanity was simply giving it away to anyone who wanted to be their friend. The galaxy was changing, and the Council was no longer in control of how. "Call an emergency session," Theron said quietly. "The Council needs to decide how to respond." He already knew what some members would say. They would talk about sanctions, about containment, maybe even about force. He suspected they were all going to learn a very painful lesson about what happened when you cornered a species that had learned to do things themselves. 2 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in ways no one had predicted. The Terran Accord now included 63 species, many of them previously ignored or exploited by the Council. Together, they represented billions of individuals and controlled territory across dozens of sectors. The Council could no longer pretend this was not a threat. The emergency session had been going for 3 days. The great chamber that had once seemed so imposing now felt smaller, more fragile. The 15 Council species argued endlessly about what to do. They are building an alternative to our authority, the Xinthian collective declared. If we do not act, we will become irrelevant. They have broken no laws, the Vethkar chimed in their musical voice. Heavy-handed response will only prove they were right to leave. The Pelthrosian faction, led by Theron, had spent days reviewing intelligence reports. What they found was disturbing. Human technology was now equal to or better than Council standard in most categories. In some areas, particularly in weapons and stealth systems, they had surpassed anything the Council possessed. More concerning was the speed of development. It had taken the Council species thousands of years to reach their current level. Humanity had done it in 2 years. How? Theron asked his intelligence team. How is this possible? The answer, when it came, was both simple and humbling. Humans did not advance the way Council species did. They did not wait for perfect solutions. They tried things, failed, learned, and tried again. They shared information freely with their allies instead of hoarding it. They took risks that seemed insane to more cautious species. And because they had been ignored and dismissed for so long, they had developed a fierce independence and a drive to prove everyone wrong. They are angry, Kira explained to Theron. Not violent, not seeking revenge, but determined. Determined to show that they did not need us, that they are better off without us. The Council's final decision was a compromise, but it satisfied no one. They would issue an ultimatum. Humanity must dismantle its military forces beyond self-defense levels, must submit to Council inspection of its technology, and must dissolve the Terran Accord. In exchange, they would be granted full Council membership with all associated privileges. If humanity refused, the Council would implement economic sanctions and reserve the right to take military action. Theron voted against the measure, but he was outvoted. The ultimatum was sent to Ambassador Chen with a 30-day deadline. Humanity's response came in 24 hours. But it was not what anyone expected. It was not a message. It was a broadcast. Every human ship in the galaxy, from massive carriers to small civilian vessels, simultaneously transmitted the same message on all frequencies. It was not encrypted. It was meant to be heard by everyone. A simple set of coordinates appeared on billions of screens across the galaxy. Below them, a date and time. Exactly 3 weeks away. Nothing else. No explanation. No demands. Just coordinates and a meeting time. The galaxy erupted in speculation. What were the humans planning? Was it a trap? A negotiation? A threat? Council intelligence worked around the clock to analyze the coordinates. They pointed to an unremarkable star system in neutral space, far from major trade routes. The system was designated Kepler 442. And human ships had been active there for months. But deep space surveillance had been unable to determine what they were building. They are trying to intimidate us, the Xinthian ambassador said. We should ignore it. We cannot ignore it, Theron argued. Every species in the galaxy is watching. If we do not respond, we look weak. If we respond with force, we may start a war we are not prepared for. Prepared? The Pelthrosian military commander laughed. We are the Galactic Council. Our combined fleet is the most powerful force in known space. What could these upstart humans possibly do? Theron did not answer. But he was thinking about the Xinthian research ship. disabled in seconds by technology that should not exist. He was thinking about pirates who had terrorized the Outer Rim for generations, wiped out in months. He was thinking about a species that had gone from helpless to dangerous in just 2 years. He was thinking that maybe the Council had made a terrible mistake, but the decision was made. The Council would assemble a combined fleet, the largest show of military power in centuries. They would go to these coordinates and show humanity and the entire galaxy who truly held power. The Vethkar contributed 80 ships of crystalline beauty, each one a masterpiece of engineering. The Zynthians sent 100 vessels, all linked into a single terrifying consciousness. The Pelthrosians provided their pride, 60 warships, sleek and deadly, each one capable of destroying a planet. 10 other Council species added their own forces. In total, 400 ships gathered at the staging point, a display of power meant to awe and intimidate. "Let the humans see what they challenge," the fleet commander said. "Let them understand their place." But other species were watching too. Members of the Terran Accord sent observer ships, curious to see what humanity was planning. Neutral species, sensing history being made, sent their own vessels to witness events. Even non-aligned species, those who had no stake in the conflict, came to watch. By the time the 3 weeks had passed, over 1,000 ships had gathered at the coordinates, the largest assembly of vessels in galactic history. Theron was on the Council flagship, standing on the bridge as they made the final jump into the Kepler 442 system. Part of him hoped this would be peaceful. Part of him feared it would not be. Part of him wondered if the Council had pushed too hard, demanded too much from a species that had already shown they did not respond well to ultimatums. The ship emerged from the jump, and Theron saw what humanity had built. His breath caught in his throat. "By the ancestors," someone whispered behind him. The system was full of human ships, hundreds of them, arranged in a careful perimeter around something vast in the asteroid field. Construction was still ongoing, but the scale was already breathtaking. But the ships were not in battle formation. They were not powered for combat. They were simply waiting. And then the lights came on. The structure in the asteroid field illuminated, and the entire galaxy could see what humans had been building while the Council argued and planned. It was not a weapon. It was something far more dangerous than that. Theron stared at the massive ring-like structures, at the power signatures that dwarfed anything he had ever seen, at the careful construction that spoke of planning and purpose. "What is it?" the fleet commander demanded. Before anyone could answer, Ambassador Sarah Chen's face appeared on every screen of every ship in the system. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Welcome," she said, "to the future. Let us show you what humans do when we decide to do it ourselves." The Council fleet floated in space, 400 warships arranged in formation, ready for battle or intimidation. Instead, they found themselves audience to something they had never imagined. Sarah Chen's image appeared on every screen, from the smallest observer craft to the largest Council dreadnought. Behind her, through the viewports of what appeared to be a command center, the massive construction gleamed with light. 2 years ago, Sarah began, humanity came to the Galactic Council and asked for help. We asked for protection, for partnership, for the basic respect accorded to any sapient species. We were refused. We were told to wait our turn, to prove ourselves worthy, to accept our place at the bottom of your hierarchy. She paused, and her expression was not angry. It was something more profound. It was the look of someone who had learned an important lesson. You taught us that we could not rely on you. That lesson was more valuable than you intended. With a gesture, the view shifted. The cameras pulled back to show the full scale of what humanity had built in the Kepler 442 system. The structure was massive, a network of ring-like gates connected by energy bridges. Each gate was kilometers across, pulsing with power that made Council sensors scream warnings. "This is the Genesis Array," Sarah said. "A jump gate network that covers the entire galaxy. It does not rely on your hyperspace lanes. It does not require your permission. It is faster, more efficient, and more accessible than anything the Council controls. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. For thousands of years, they had maintained power partly through control of faster-than-light travel. Species wanted Council membership because it meant access to the jump gates. It meant freedom to move through the galaxy. Now humanity was offering the same thing. To everyone. For free. But it is more than just gates, Sarah continued. While we built this, we solved other problems too. Problems, the Council said, were too difficult or too dangerous. Human ships began demonstrating their technology. Communication systems that required no relay stations, sending messages across light years instantly. Energy shields that adapted in real time to different weapons, nearly impenetrable. Engines that jumped between systems without leaving the detectable energy signature. Council ships could not hide. On the Council flagship, Theron watched with a mixture of awe and horror. Each technology alone would be revolutionary. Together, they represented a complete shift in the balance of galactic power. How did they do this? The fleet commander whispered. In just 2 years? They stopped asking for permission, Theron said quietly. They stopped waiting for us to tell them. They were ready. They just did the work. A new voice joined the broadcast. Admiral John Williams appeared beside Sarah, a decorated military officer with gray hair and steady eyes. We did not build this to threaten anyone. We built it because we needed it, and no one else would help us. But we are not the Council. We do not hoard knowledge or demand payment for basic dignity. With a gesture, dozens of human ships altered their positions, revealing something the formation had been hiding. Smaller vessels from the Terran Accord species, each one equipped with human technology, each one now capable of defending itself, of traveling freely, of communicating across the galaxy. Any species that wishes to join the Genesis network is welcome, Sarah said. Any species that wants to access this technology is welcome. All we ask is that you follow simple rules. No piracy, no slavery, no genocide. Help others when you can. Build instead of taking. Cooperate instead of dominating. She looked directly at the camera and threw it at the Council that had dismissed her so many times. We do not want to replace your Council. We do not want to destroy what you have built. But we will not accept being treated as lesser beings. We will not wait for permission to exist with dignity. The Xinthian collective transmitted a message to the fleet commander. They are trying to undermine our authority. We should act now, before this spreads. But the fleet commander was looking at his sensor displays. They showed the human ship's weapons capabilities, the energy readings from their shields, the way they moved with precision that suggested coordination beyond anything he had seen. And if we attack? He asked. What then? No one answered, because they all knew. The Council fleet might win a battle here, but they would lose everything else. Every neutral species was watching. Every minor civilization was seeing humans offer freely what the Council rationed and sold. If the Council attacked now, they would prove everything humanity had said about them. They would become the bullies, the tyrants, the old order, desperate to cling to power. Theron made a decision. He opened a direct channel to Sarah Chen. Ambassador Chen, he said, on behalf of the Pelthrosian delegation, I wish to apologize for the years we wasted, for the disrespect we showed, for not seeing you as you were. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Thank you, Council Member Theron. But we do not need your apology. We need you to make a choice. What choice? Join us or ignore us. Either way, we are moving forward. She gestured to the Genesis array. This galaxy is big enough for both systems. Your Council can continue as it always has, serving those who value hierarchy and tradition. We will serve those who want something different. Admiral Williams added, but understand this clearly. We will defend ourselves and our allies. We will not be intimidated. We will not submit to inspection or disarmament. We built this with our own hands and our own minds, and we will not surrender it. The fleet commander received urgent messages from multiple council members. Some demanded immediate attack. Others counseled restraint. The debate that had paralyzed the council for months was now happening in real time, with the whole galaxy watching. Then, something unexpected happened. A Vren ship, one of the small trading vessels from a species the council barely acknowledged, broadcast a message. Humanity helped us when no one else would. They asked nothing in return. Whatever the council decides, the Vren stand with humanity. Another voice joined. Then another. Species from the Terran Accord, one by one, declared their support. Small voices, insignificant to the council, but dozens of them together made a chorus that could not be ignored. Theron saw the future with sudden clarity. The council could attack, could try to destroy what humanity built. They might even succeed, but they would create martyrs. They would unite every species that ever felt dismissed or ignored. They would lose not through military defeat, but through moral collapse. Or they could accept reality. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was not going to go away or submit. The choice was to adapt or become irrelevant. He opened a channel to the fleet commander. Stand down. This is not a battle. We need to fight. But the ultimatum was a mistake, one I am officially opposing. Theron took a breath. Humanity has broken no laws. They have built something remarkable. If we attack, we become the villains in a story the whole galaxy is watching. Slowly, reluctantly, the council fleet powered down weapons. They did not leave, but they stopped threatening. Sarah Chen's expression showed relief, though she tried to hide it. "Thank you," she said simply. Admiral Williams stepped forward. "The Genesis array will be operational in 3 months. Any species that wishes to connect to the network can contact us. The technology sharing agreements will be published publicly. No secrets, no hoarding, just an invitation to build a better galaxy together," Sarah added. "We did not want to be enemies of the Council. We just wanted to be treated as equals. You refused. So we built our own path. Now you have a choice. Join us in building something new, or watch as the galaxy moves on without you." The broadcast ended. In the silence that followed, Theron looked at the Genesis array, at the human ships, at the future humanity had built with their own stubborn determination. Kira appeared beside him. "What happens now, sir?" Theron thought about hierarchy and tradition, about pride and power. He thought about a species that had been told they were not ready, not worthy, not important. He thought about what they had accomplished anyway. "Now," he said quietly, "the Council learns to adapt, or it dies." Across the galaxy, species were already making their choices. Some would cling to the old ways. Others would embrace the new. But everyone understood one thing. When humans said, "Fine, we'll do it ourselves," they meant it. And they had just changed the galaxy forever. The storm had not come to destroy. It had come to build. And nothing would ever be the same.